Jamie, I'm exhausted.
I know.
Did you enjoy Faithless Forum?
Wait, what? I don't remember whether maybe it's the paint. Oh, shit, run!
All right, let's go.
Quick, we have to make it back to Austin.
You know what, man? The regular routines, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be bringing a shit ton of people on today, you know that?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think the coolest thing we've done is fit them all in this two-seater.
Well, let's all right, let's go.
All right.
Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen!
Oh. And right out the gate, I just yelled into a mic like some kind of noob that
you did.
It's my crew. I love my crew.
It is April 28th, 2019. It is Season 3, Episode 17. And I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm Jaime Boone. How many of these have we done? I am so exhausted. Well, here, let's do announcements before I get to complaining about how great my life is.
Well, so I want to skip through announcements as quickly as possible because we've got a lot of cool stuff to bring everybody.
Yes, we do.
I do want to let them know that we've got special other atheist YouTuber guests who are going to be joining us. And with that, they're going to be taking theist calls. So if you have a religious friend or family member, or if you've been waiting to hop in and talk to us and tell us why you think we're wrong, now's the time. Yeah, we have 2 lines open, and we are being as succinct as possible. We're taking the best callers first. So 512-686-0279.
Oh, I was hoping you were gonna.
That's 512-686-0279. Go ahead.
Oh, I was hoping you were giving me a taste of my own medicine a little bit.
Go ahead.
Of the years. Really? Yeah. So are we gonna? Okay. Now you've psyched me out. I don't know when you're gonna come in. Are we telling them which YouTubers, or is it all a surprise? Like if they wanted to,
I'm kind of up for the surprise.
Okay, cool.
If they follow them on social media, they would know already.
Yeah. Right? So. You're a failure for not spending more time on Facebook.
Yes, because
and you can tell your mom I said that. So
I still love you.
Yeah. Why is there this third mic here, though? I thought we were doing in pairs.
Well, we got announcements, and we decided we'd bring somebody in.
Oh.
Oh, holy, who had the mic? Why is my mic so loud?
Thank you.
So bad.
No,
thank you.
He did it on purpose to make me feel better because Thomas is a real professional, unlike me.
So, Thomas Westbrook, holy Kool-Aid. Let's get this down here so we can see your face. Hey, buddy.
Stunned.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Doing all right.
Fantastic to be here again.
Yeah, absolutely. We brought you here for announcements, and
for those of you that don't know, Thomas is tall, and Eric and I are giants.
And people don't really vacuum under the carpets under the table here.
That is false. That is slander. Our crew works very hard. Eric,
all right.
Eric, when was the last time you vacuumed? All right, fine.
One
Whatever.
of the two of you polishes their shoes.
Anyway.
I'm not going to say which.
So, we brought you on because we want to talk about what we were up to this weekend. What were we up to, Thomas?
So this weekend we had the Faithless Forum in Dallas, Texas. It was a fantastic gathering of content creators. It's the first conference ever to be organized entirely by atheist YouTubers, bringing people together from all over the world. And this is the second time that we've had the conference, and we put it together in a matter of a few months. We sold out our tickets in 5 weeks, 2 months before the conference went live. And we had a cancellation wait list of over 176 people, so there was huge demand.
Wait, are you saying there's a higher wait list after you sold out than the number of attendees?
Yeah, the wait list, 176 is when I stopped checking.
Wow.
Because at that point, I mean, it doesn't matter how many, unless the whole conference cancels and we just need like a new swap out of seats, we could have had 2 conferences.
Jeez, oh man.
I was going to say, Eric, it's not just the ACA that needs a larger building and venue and your donations at patreon.com/talkheathen to me. All right,
but
sorry,
this conference, I would have to say, is the most fun I have ever had at an atheist or skeptic or humanist convention ever. Like, we tried to keep it extremely interactive and fun. We had games, we had trivia. For example, we had a evolution trivia against Aron where we brought 3 audience members at a time and cycled them in and out. They would compete against Aron. And then we had
Bible trivia against Matt
Dillahunty.
I tried to get up and go against him. He said no.
Yeah, 3 audience members at a time. The audience lost.
Seth Andrews came and read our hate comments.
Oh,
that
that deep, buttery voice.
I did not think I would ever hear Seth Andrews say the phrase, you are terrible, fake, you are bitch, and then continue to speak as if it was like a normal thing to say.
It's beautiful.
And then we would have a multiple choice list of which YouTuber people in the audience are yelling out names like, oh, that's probably Shannon's, or that's Rachel's, or, oh, that sounds like it's Eric's. Yeah. And then, most of the time, like, I don't know, it was kind of hit or miss. Sometimes they got it right, sometimes they didn't. But every single time, people were laughing their butts off, having a fantastic time. There was so much energy in the room. It was just all around phenomenal. We had an after party afterwards. People got to meet and hang out with all their favorite content creators. We had Cosmic Skeptic. We had Rationality Rules, Rachel Oates. It's a long list. And I feel bad if I list off the whole thing and forget people.
Shannon Q, Kyle, Prophet of Zod.
Kyle Curtis, Prophet of Zod, Telltale Atheist, Drew McCoy, or you guys know him as Genetically Modified Skeptic. We had Paulogia. We had
Kyle Curtis, one of my favorite people.
Show.
We had a couple Brits, right? Christina Rad, yeah.
I think I already did. I say Rachel Oates and Stephen Woodford.
Yeah.
Already.
It was a bunch of people, and here's the thing.
Earls, Eric Murphy.
Yes. Oh, that guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was an absolute blast, man. I've never seen or been to a convention like that where everybody was that engaged with what was going on in the front, that people were there was really this back and forth, and so it really did feel like we were doing this event together and not kind of at people.
Yeah,
and that was fun.
Was a fantastic feeling of community.
My favorite thing at conferences is when you're not just being lectured at, when it's not just, oh, hey, here's an intellectual thing and we're going to sit and talk to you or talk down to you. I also don't like going to conferences where the speakers, it's like, oh, hey, there's this A-list speaker that's going to show up and they're just in a back room. One thing that I've always loved, when I go to a conference, if I see like Matt Dillahunty will be out like sitting and talking with people, with fans, and engaging with them, I really respect that. And I think that as we're bringing in people and saying, hey, you get to meet your content creators, it wouldn't be fair to just put them in like a back VIP room. So we have all of them every single year where we tell them, go and sit with the fans, sit in the crowd in the audience, laugh, engage, talk. When you go to dinner, we had a VIP dinner, go sit with the fans, don't all just clump together. And I think that everyone had a fantastic time. We had really, really, really good feedback, and we're hoping to bring it back in 2020.
Absolutely. And when you do, because I have absolute confidence you will, we'll be there. I want to say thank you so much for having us out. I had an absolute blast.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah,
absolutely. Take care, man.
I was there, but not as a speaker.
Disappear.
That's why I didn't make the
Okay. All right. So I do want to get into calls as quickly as I can. So I want to get through the announcements as fast as possible. First off, I want to say that the magazine is out. Check out the most recent issue of Thinking Aloud. I'm really, honestly, I'm exhausted. And I also actually want to throw a special thank you out to Gwyn and Chris because I had a lot of prep that I needed to do for this convention, and they sat and helped me write out what I was going to say, and I cannot thank them enough. It was amazing, and it was really amazing because they supported me through that. Thank you. We have an amazing social media team. Our entire crew is incredible. I want to say thank you so much. So I also want to say we're going to be thanking our patrons. Every week, we thank our top 5 patrons right around the middle of the episode. So if you have not become a patron, if you'd like to, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. And anything else, Jaime, before we move on? Okay, good.
Nope. I mean,
so
I was stalling for our speaker and not just being ridiculous. Just taking credit. Sorry to call you.
It's time for me to move.
I was going to say, sorry for calling you out, Shannon Q.
It's time for me to move. Shannon, welcome to Talk Heathen.
I'm so excited.
We're switching chairs, right?
I'm going to come in the normal person way.
I don't know, it's fine.
I'm going to go around to Jamie's side.
I'm going to go on Jamie's side?
Okay.
Do I have to go on the ground like Thomas did?
Yes.
I have no idea what you're talking about. That magic was real. Who needs Jesus when you can make people appear and disappear out of thin air? For those of you that don't know Shannon Q, you should, because she's awesome, and you can find her on the internet. Just Google Shannon Q. It's spelled Shannon and then the letter Q. Shannon Q! Come on. You're alive. Act like it. We've done too much work to clap or have enthusiasm. Yeah, I know. Yeah. How are you?
I am fantastic. A little bit tired.
I was going to say, since yesterday when I saw you. What's happened in your life since yesterday when I saw you last?
Well, let's see. I went to sleep and woke up and drove here.
That is exactly the same thing I did. Coincidence? I think Jesus. So, did you want to plug any of your stuff or?
Yeah, Yeah, sure. I'm not very good at plugging stuff, but I'm Shannon Q. I have a YouTube channel that's called Shannon Q. On that channel, I talk about the intersection between psychology and faith, and I also engage in complex conversations. My channel has three, lines of focus. One is elevating the discourse. The second would be advocating for your own understanding. And the third is engaging in complex conversations. So if you'd like to check it out, please go.
Yeah. I was going to say, and please don't make fun of her speech impediment. It's a condition that millions of people have. It's
the
called,
accent.
I was going to say, way to take my joke. I was going to say, it's called Canadian, and millions of people are afflicted with it every year. So
Very specific to Nova Scotian.
Oh, yeah.
Very specific brand of Canadian.
Yeah, I thought we had to share a bottle of wine before you broke out the
It's usually
awesome-
rum. It's usually rum.
Oh, okay.
It's all right.
Well,
I'll teach you about it.
My mind was like, oh, I'll do a Texas accent, and then in my head I heard a leprechaun. So I'm gonna just keep with my normal voice right now before I fuck everything up. So actually, I'm gonna take just half a minute because I know we want to do calls because a lot of our guests haven't done calls yet.
Yeah, I'm excited.
You know,
Call.
okay. Is that? Let's do calls.
Yeah.
You're great. I enjoyed your talk at the conference.
Thank you.
You're amazing. You make me feel better about the world that many young women are growing up in. So.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Thank you. That means a lot to me, Jane.
Yeah, you're welcome. You have to say that because you're live on camera. So, I know you.
You know
well
I
enough
don't
to-
censor myself, Jamie. You bet me.
I was gonna say I know you well enough to know you'd be like, oh, thanks. All right, let's take River in Indiana. Hi, how are you? You're on with Jaime and Shannon Q.
Hi. So I was wondering what you guys thought, because I have a lot of friends who told me that I should call into you guys atheist friends.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of an admin in an atheist group that I share admin privileges with. But so I was wondering how you guys thought how theists and atheists could get together and better humanity. Kind of like think of Star Trek.
Okay.
I'm a big Star Trek fan.
Me
Is
too.
that possible in your mind?
Yeah. I was gonna say, I don't know whether you want to jump in on this one first, but
I can.
go for
So I think that there's already steps happening towards that. We actually we had a polytheist come to our conference yesterday. His name is Ocean. He's a great friend. He's somebody who shares values with us. Somebody who values secularism. Somebody who values the pursuit of truth. Somebody who values looking into ideas so that you can understand where those ideas come from. And I think the best thing that you can do is not be polarizing. A lot of people, because they've been harmed by religious thinking, become angry. And when they become angry, when they see religious thinking it manifest in other people, they immediately have a reaction that they need to be averse because that's something that they've learned is harmful. So you need to be able to kind of overcome that and realize that it's the ideas that hurt you. Not every person who has those ideas are going to enact in the same way the person that hurt you did. So I think just being kind and being gracious and attempting to understand people that you're interacting with is a really good place to start. What do you think, Jamie?
I think basically the same. I think the way you started as far as steps are already being taken, I think that's true. I think that's definitely true in the YouTuber community. But in terms of activism, mostly I know about the country I was born, raised, and still live in. And yeah, that happens a lot more than people think, right? The head of Americans United for Separation, or the former head of Americans United for Separation of Church and State was a pastor, right? And a majority of pastors support the existence of the Johnson Amendment. And in terms of their issues and values that we share that lead to same conclusions on issues that are current, in terms of big ticket items like, hey, should the Capitol building operate as a church? A majority of Americans, believers and non-believers, and a majority of believers say, no, it shouldn't. It's just that that's not the way things are going right now. So it's needed, and I'm glad you called in to talk about that. So did that answer your question mostly, or did you have more?
Yeah, mostly. I just wanted to kind of get your guys' view that a lot of the atheists in the group, we're actually friends and we get along very well. I'm a theistic evolutionist.
Oh, okay.
So and I'm far left politically.
Right.
And so that kind of gives you guys an idea of where I'm at. And I'm pretty educated. I've done master's seminary work, and I've done my research was more on how in the first century using the philosophy that you find in the New Testament and stuff like that, and applying it of how stuff evolved through time and applying that into the future.
Okay, so normally I wouldn't do this, particularly since I'm such a fluffy bunny to Eric's attack wolf on the show. But can you describe what you mean by using first century philosophy on the New Testament? And, well, here, let's start with, so you said you're a theistic evolutionist. Presumably that doesn't mean that you think the process of evolution is God, or is that what you believe? It's not a term I've
No,
heard
I
before.
believe that, well, first off, the Old Testament, the Old Testament and throughout the whole scripture pictures a flat earth. Like the Hebrew word for firmament, raki, means like a solid dome. It means a solid stamped out plate. And I mean, once you come to it, you're like, well, that's what it says.
It says God had a snow globe. Yeah.
Pillars.
And then Philo, the first century Jewish philosopher, said that it's made out of sapphire. Josephus says that it's made out of crystal. Yeah. And, you just kind of come to that type of conclusion. But in the New Testament philosophy, there's a lot of philosophy woven in.
Right.
Okay, so I don't mean to cut across you, because actually a lot of this is new information, but and I asked you to tell me. But so are these conclusions that you also hold? Because I assumed that the call screener would have told me if you believed the Earth was flat.
I'm not a flat earther. That's what you're asking.
Can I interject for 1 second? I have a question for you with regards to being a theistic evolutionist. I've always wanted to talk to somebody who is a theistic evolutionist, because I have a question that many people haven't been able to reconcile for me. My background's in psychology, and I studied neurology pretty extensively. So the philosophy surrounding the soul in theology is something that I find very interesting. And what I can't figure out how you reconcile with the evolutionary process is when God donned a soul onto humans. Like, what instantiation through the evolutionary process of human development, if you're looking at it from a single cell all the way up to our current form. At what point did God determine to himself, okay, now is the time that they're good enough that I will give them that soul? Or did we have souls when we were lower life forms from our perspective now? And if that's the case, wouldn't that mean that everything has a soul and there's nothing particularly unique or special about us, which would also mean that we're not in God's image?
Well, I think, first off, I don't think that we can treat the Bible as a science book at all, and I don't think that it answers it.
Yeah.
Huh?
Her question isn't dependent on the
It's not dependent on the Bible, just a perspective of a God that dawns us with a soul where we're in his image. Yeah, you can even if you've never read the Bible. Like that's a question that's hard to reconcile.
I just never thought about when that happens. Like
you're on the right show to start.
It's an important thing to think about, though, don't you think?
I mean, I guess so. I don't think it's like life depending on me of when the soul actually comes into. And first off, I would start, like, I always start at the baseline, like, does a soul exist?
Right.
And then kind of build off from there. But
I could talk about that for hours.
I was going to say, do you believe that a soul exists?
I haven't even.
Or that 7 billion of them do?
I do, but it's not something that I have researched.
Right.
So it's not something that I could speak on.
Is it something you think is worth you maybe looking into further, especially since you present yourself as a theistic evolutionist, which means that obviously you understand the evolutionary process is fact. If that's the case, if it's a fact, then we didn't exist in the form that we currently exist in for time immemorial. We existed in different forms. If we existed in different forms, then
did those forms have
souls?
Did
those forms have souls?
Well, I think from what I understand, what most people see, souls are not a physical entity. So it's not required like how much big of a space do you need for a soul.
Does everything have a soul then? Because it's not about the space in your head.
Energy.
It's about what qualities of a human make them deserving of a soul and nothing else, especially if we didn't always exist in the form we do and didn't always have those qualities.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of it might deal with consciousness and how much awareness you have of, like, let's say time. Like, do you having a soul, being aware of reality itself and being able to understand that there's that you're always going forward in time.
Wouldn't a soul just be cognition then? And you could be a materialist and see a soul as cognition, and then the soul existing would be negated. It wouldn't even be a necessity, because you could be a materialist like I am, who looks at neurology and can see where a soul where what we perceive as a soul or label as a soul could just be conscious cognition and self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is possible, but I am not a neuroscientist, so I couldn't comment on that.
They're valid things to think about, though, if you want to find truth in your life.
Yes, it is.
They're questions I couldn't reconcile, right? So if you could reconcile them for me, I'd be a theist.
Well, sometimes I think to myself is being uncomfortable of not having the answers and always searching. And I find that going back to my original question of why fundamentalists are not comfortable in the not knowing, that they have to know.
Right.
And so...
But aren't you kind of doing the same thing by assuming a soul without knowing?
Yeah, assuming it's okay, like, do I know?
But they're doing with evolution, only you're saying it's not okay for them, but for you, you're deeming it okay.
Can you say that again?
Well, for them, you're saying that they're uncomfortable with not knowing. Like when it comes to things like evolution, they're not willing to look into it, and thus they're just labeling it based on their pre-existing belief and going along with that. I asked you several questions about the soul, and you said you don't know because you haven't looked into it, but you're willing to continue along with the same assumption. So if you apply the logic that you applied to them, to yourself, you wouldn't fit your own standard.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that that I am comfortable with being wrong. Okay. So you prove to me that, it's more about proof is what I'm saying. It's like having to be right.
Yeah, and you don't want to insert. You don't want to make an assertion.
I think at some level we have to allow people to understand that. Well, I can't research every tiny little detail in life, and we all have to say, based on the current evidence and life experiences and whatnot, that I have come to this conclusion, but no one's asked me the question you have before. The thought never came up in my mind.
I'm so glad we're talking today. Yeah. I'm glad you're calling, River.
So therefore, you have something for me to look into amongst the 1,000 other things that I do on a personal basis.
I'm sure you do.
So,
I have no doubt in my mind. I appreciate that you're seeking truth and that you're being honest to yourself about what you're looking for. It's not an easy thing that all people are willing to do. I hope you leave this conversation and go and think some more about it. And maybe you'll find out something that you can tell me that I didn't know before we talked. Find me on Twitter. I'm Shan_Q0.
Yeah.
Let me know what you find.
Well, that and what River, what Shannon is getting to, like the professional that she is that the segment where I get to share a stage with Shannon Q while she does my job better than I do.
Sorry.
No.
I like to chitty chatter.
That's good. That is actually that was that goal, the best possible circumstance. Shannon Q, everyone. But thank you for calling in, River. Again, it's Talk Heathen, so call in next week after you do your homework. Also, Shannon Q's on Twitter, and if she steals you as a caller to Twitter, I actually don't feel bad about it at all. But
okay.
Yeah, thank you for calling in, River. And with that, I will turn the camera and stage and everything back over to Eric for him to bring his first guest.
All right. Thank you, Jaime. Yeah, we had somebody walk in front of the camera, which is perfectly fine. We were ready for it. All right, so we did have open lines, and it looks like they are filling up quick, but we do want to take the best calls because we don't have too much, we've got way too many people that we want to get on here, and I really, really want them to have some really good calls. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring the next guest, Cosmic Skeptic. How's it going, brother?
It's good to be here.
Dude.
Yeah, exciting.
I'm glad you made it, man.
Yeah, me too. It's great to be here in Texas. Super tired, but I think this is going to be fun.
Why would you be super tired?
Might have something to do with the conference yesterday and maybe the after party, but I can't quite put my finger on it.
And then we drove 3 hours back.
Yeah, something like that as well.
That
Yeah,
was
thank
rough.
you, by the way, for putting up with my snoring for an hour while you were driving me down.
I was not going to say anything. All right. So, I think we should just jump right into the call.
Sounds
I'd
great.
love to talk to Arthur in Poland. Arthur.
Yeah, hello guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. First of all, this is my first call to talk Heathen and 8 years experience, and I'm so let's say, you know what I mean. Listen,
I'm assuming that's a good thing.
definitely, yeah.
Rock on.
Okay, so I was told by the call screener to definitely keep it short. So first of all, greetings from Poland, and then I would just like to address a few things.
Sure.
And keep it short, as I was told to. So first of all, I would like to quickly explain how the stuff works. Theism, atheism here in Poland, in my opinion, I think it's the opinion of many other people. First of all, the default position in Poland when you speak to a guy that he is a Roman Catholic. So when you meet a new person, you know that this person is a Roman Catholic.
Okay.
And this is the, let's say, default position. So if anything, if something else pops up, that is different. So when you speak to a people, you are like certain that this is a Roman Catholic.
Okay.
And myself, I was also baptized. I consider myself as a Roman Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
At the moment, now, for now.
What?
Let's say.
Huh.
Baptized, confirmed.
But I'm going. But I'm still, let's say, at the moment, I'm like almost atheist. Sorry.
Okay.
Because
Let's see what we can do.
Yeah. Let's jump right in. What question did you have?
First of all, if I may still continue, I would like to just to tell you what stuff happens in Poland. I'd like to hear your opinion.
Sure.
And your stuff. What is your opinion about this? Because for me, it's devastating the society here and devastating the whole country even.
Sure.
Because, like I told you, of this default position. For example, 1 month ago, and you can check it, you can Google it.
No
1
worries.
month ago, Catholic priests were burning outside of the church books here in Poland, like Harry Potter, like, I don't know, or other merchandise from Hello Kitty and other stuff, because they were considering evil, whatever this sounds like, yeah?
Yeah.
So, listen, this is crazy, right? And
Arthur. Arthur.
Yeah?
Did you call to talk about an issue, or were you just sharing a story?
Don't get me wrong. I would like.
Okay.
Sorry if I.
That's okay. We're short on time. I just want to make sure that we get to your question.
Sure. If I missed the topic, sorry for that.
Okay.
Because I honestly didn't check the topic today because it's a short of time. I wanted a little bit to address how the stuff works here in Poland to make to have your opinion, your comment. Sorry for that. I can end this right now. This is just info for you that wrong stuff happens around the world, as
Arthur,
you know that.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I think we should talk about that at some other time, but it's not that this is more of a conversation back and forth, having disagreements, those kinds of things that we can work through, not as much of a...
Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely. Take care,
looking
brother.
forward for all other stuff that you do, and thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, that didn't work out as well. Let's move to Saad in Pakistan.
Hey, guys.
Hey, you're talking to Eric and Cosmic Skeptic.
Hey, Eric. It's good. I remember last time we spoke about the scientific miracles in the Quran, but I thought I'd deviate to something different.
Hold on.
A bit more...
Hold on. Saad, Well, last time we
Yeah,
talked,
right here.
we talked about you talked about things that you thought were miracles in the Quran. You talked about things that you thought were science in the Quran, and we bounced back and kind of gave examples to you of how that's not the case. Did you look into that, or did you just kind of skip over it?
I did look into it, but this time I thought I'd talk about something else because that conversation was interesting. But I guess why I don't want to get into it because it's what people would consider as my interpretation of what would be considered science in the Quran versus you saying that it's not, or which is why I feel like I think what makes more sense is because talk about is.
Saad, so are you saying that you were calling in with something that was not the reason why you were convinced before?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Sure. So if it doesn't matter so much that you can just skip on past it, then why did you bother us with it? Give us your best, man.
Oh, sure, I can do that.
Because that's not fair to us or to everybody watching. Like, this is not preaching time, right?
Sure, I'll do it. You asked for it.
Absolutely. Cosmic, I'm going to leave this over to you, buddy.
Ready.
All right, go for it.
Well, when I looked at some of the stuff about embryology and some of the other things that the Quran mentions were stuff that wasn't ever researched or ever understood at the time. My argument here is fine. What Matt said the last time was like there were people who had babies and there were miscarriages and all those things. That doesn't make sense. However, but there was no particular book or there was no particular educational reference for people to look at. I mean, yes, people may have known about certain things, but there was no authority that says, okay, this is what it all boils down to.
Okay, you're referencing a conversation. Let's make sure that Cosmic and everybody else is on the same page. You were making the claim that it says in the Quran what an aborted fetus looks like, and people could not have known what aborted fetuses looked like. Therefore, the Quran is true and contains scientific information. Is that about right?
It was something that's what we were talking about. That was what Matt's argument was at the time.
That was his response to your argument. So, are you still working on that, or is that something that?
Well, I'm kind of working on it. My response to this when I thought about it, I was like, there's no specific authority that suggests that at the time suggested that this is embryology or any certain book. For example, like even today, there's a lot of things I know, a lot of things you know, but in order to trust something, trust a certain fact, you need to go to an educational book or a professor or a PhD or someone who's an expert at certain things.
Right, but it's not advanced embryology to know what an aborted fetus looks like. I mean, all you need to do is look at it. I mean, I would understand if there was something more significant in there. If the Quran had some information that cannot have another explanation for its origins and how the authors of the Quran, whoever it may have been, could have known those things, then that it was divinely inspired or indeed the direct revelation of God, then you might have a point. But it seems to me that you're pointing to something that can have a vast array of explanations, and the simplest of which is that, yes, it's perfectly possible to know what these things look like. I don't really understand that argument. A thing to note is that many of the supposed miracles and the scientific miracles, which, as they're often categorized in the Quran, are broad enough that they can be taken in multiple directions. So, for instance, a lot of people point to where in the Quran it says that the sun moves in its own orbit. And they say, look, there's no way that we could have known that the sun is actually moving through a galaxy as well as being our own solar system. They say it wasn't until the 20th century that Hubble found out that there was more than just our own galaxy. Well, the fact of the matter is, the sun moving in its orbit could just as easily mean the sun orbiting the Earth as the sun orbiting the galaxy. And I think I know which is more likely. And in all the cases where the Quran seems to have some kind of prescience when it comes to scientific issues, it's almost certainly exactly the same kind of situation whereby there's a perfectly more simple naturalistic explanation for this that doesn't require the extra baggage of believing that it's the divine word of God.
That's what I was suggesting earlier, that I could say I could infer from the Quran, or I could infer from certain texts that suggest that there is science in the Quran, and then you would argue that no, this is too broad, or it's interpreted to be in a certain way. But if you look at especially when you look at embryology, there's actual stages that are defined in the Quran about it. So it's just not like the example that we talked about earlier was about the chewed gum or the leech reference, and then that's where the argument took off from there.
Yeah.
That's what we discussed.
Okay, so you're obviously referencing a conversation that I didn't hear, but I have a question for you, if I can be so bold, which is this. If there were similar information in the Bible, would you turn into a Christian?
Well, in my opinion, see, now that's a very interesting question. The Quran references to the Christians and the Jews as the people of the book. In fact, being Muslim means someone who submits to God. So basically, everyone who was a prophet, from Jesus to Moses to Abraham, all the Abrahamic prophets, all of them were submitted to God. So basically, in a sense, all of them were Muslims.
Yeah. So you're saying that the information there can be correct, but that's not sufficient. Although it's necessary, it's not sufficient to make you believe in the truth of the claims of the entire book, because although it may be true what's written in that book, there are other explanations as to how it came about being in that book. Well, precisely the same thing is true of the Quran. It may be the case that these things are genuinely true and are genuinely insightful scientific pieces of information, but there are a multitude of reasons why they could be in there, and they're also in other areas too that you wouldn't presumably find as compelling if the similar information was in a different holy book, or in if we found an ancient manuscript that said a similar thing that didn't claim to be the divine inspired word of God. You wouldn't pick up that manuscript and say, well, this must have been written by the creator of the universe. You'd probably come to a different explanation. So it seems to me that rather than looking at the evidence in the holy book and using that to reason that the book is true, you're starting with the assumption that the book is true and then finding ways to justify that. Because if you started with the mere information in the book, there are a multitude of different explanations to why it's in there. And the fact that it's written by the creator of the universe is not the most compelling.
Well, that's a good question. So, but the thing is, at that point in time, which other book referenced to all of these would be, according to you, scientific facts, or wouldn't be scientific facts? Any of those things that are mentioned in the Quran that would be considered science, wouldn't be considered science. There was no real authority that would suggest these things.
Well, I'm not necessarily suggesting that there are. I'm just saying that if there were, I don't think that would convince you, would it?
Well, I'd like to know, because I myself, like all of you guys, am also searching for answers too. I'm not just going to blindly follow everything. In fact, and Eric and Jaime know that the two times that I've been on previously, I've always suggested that yes, I've been raised Muslim, I've grown up in a Muslim country, and I still believe in it. I've always had questions within the faith about certain things that preachers, so-called preachers, would teach me, and I had issues with them. And I tried to do my own research and try to come up with, try to look at more educated people within the faith and more knowledgeable people who would have answers, and then I'd find them my answers. So there's still a lot of unresolved mysteries of the universe that I feel I don't know. In fact,
that puts you with the rest of us. But why are you only looking within your faith to find just what confirms what you think is already true? Like you said, I'm looking for intelligent, scholarly people within the faith. Why? Why don't you just look for the answers? Shouldn't it matter? Should it matter? I mean, the truth is going to be the truth regardless of who tells you.
I have been. In fact, I've read books by non-Muslims. I don't know. Karen Armstrong is one of my favorite authors. She wrote the book History of God, which details the concept of God all the way back to Greek mythology, or whatever you want to call that, up till Islam. Everything all the way back from the pre-Abrahamic era to today. That was a very interesting book.
Even it's worth remembering that Karen Armstrong is quite sympathetic to Islamic doctrines, more sympathetic than other authors at least. So it's worth reading perhaps slightly more hostile authors, but I think it would do some good.
Yeah. Hey, Saad.
I'm more than willing to listen to different points of view.
Well, rock on.
I'm more than happy to write because it's important because I studied in the U.S. so I was around people who didn't believe what I believed, and then every time I'd get into an argument or a sort of intelligent debate about Christianity says this, Islam says this, you versus me, you versus me, I always realized one thing, that no matter how much I debate with them, they'd still think that they're right and I'd still think I'm right. So there would never be
probably stop that, right? We should probably open ourselves up doxastically to be able to listen to and accept other things as possibly being right. The last thing you want to do is entrench yourself into something and not have a good reason to believe it, right?
Exactly.
Awesome.
In fact,
I'm glad we're in agreement. We need to move on to the next YouTuber because we've got a star-studded panel. But I'm glad you called in.
I noticed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was fun talking to you again.
It was wonderful talking to you. Take care. All right. With that said, Cosmic Skeptic and I are going to bounce out while Jaime brings in a new guest. So, Jaime, It's all you, bud.
Here I am. Here I am. Rocked the world like a tropical storm. And I would like to introduce my next very special guest, the unknown, the sixth Backstreet Boy. Let's give it up for him. No, it's Kyle Curtis. I get to josh with him.
Does it zing after the sixth time hearing it?
Yeah, well, they haven't heard it 6 times. I enjoy it every time.
First of all, I want to talk about how unfair it is that I have to follow Shannon Q and Cosmic Skeptic.
That's fine. I assumed you were going to come in and do a backflip or something. And
You thought wrong.
Yo, 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 I'm here to say.
Very wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say. Okay, so, my rainbow suspenders aren't visible, but I was expecting something more fabulous. Are you okay being made more fabulous?
Are you close shaming me right now?
No, I'm trying to close improve you right now. Maybe? No? Oh. I'm trying.
This is what you do on
trying
Talk
to help.
Heathen.
It's fine. Yes, yeah, it is. Yeah. Welcome
Nice
to
hat,
Talk
though.
Heathen. Thank
Beautiful
you.
hat.
Yeah. Do you want to? I don't mean to be.
I can't because if I take this off, you'll lose half your audience. I didn't do my hair today.
Oh, okay. Well, this could go on top of that if
Sure,
you'd like.
we can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Are you wearing a bow?
Yes, because the fabulous never ends. So, yeah, thank you. All right, cool, whatever.
Wow.
The audience. Yeah, it is also not fair that we have to follow Shannon Q and Cosmic Skeptic because we're going to end up being letdowns, but we're going to be the most entertaining.
We're already off to a
following
great
it.
start.
Yes, it's almost like someone isn't deciding to take a call yet. I wonder whose responsibility that is. You ready,
Am
Captain?
I supposed to take calls?
No. I mean, I just meant that I hadn't hit the button yet. I was doing that thing where I mentioned a thing that I.
This is your failure.
Yeah. No, it's mine. You're good.
I can't even look at you.
And with that, Jimmy from Texas, you wanted to talk about mystical experiences?
Well, the research article that was published this last Tuesday, it was a survey with so-called God encounters, or that they equate to the research that's going on at Johns Hopkins relative to so-called complete mystical experience and mystical type experience. And they showed that they had some atheists that also participated in the study. And after this event, they no longer identified, or majority of atheists no longer identified with atheism. I don't know if you heard about it. It was.
I can sort of identify because after this experience, I'm thinking about no longer identifying as that either.
I have ruined all atheism for Kyle Curtis. I didn't know whether you wanted to jump in on.
What exactly was the experience? Do you know?
Well, they're I said, they're relating it to the studies done at Johns Hopkins with psilocybin, where they're giving volunteers a high dose, and they can induce what they're calling the complete mystical experience, which is defined by 6 characteristics that a volunteer has to meet, criteria on all 6. So if you hit all 6 of the criteria, you've had a so-called complete mystical experience. But of course, it recurs on a spectrum. So if you don't hit all 6, then incomplete or partial mystical experiences also happen as well.
Let me quickly make a side point, which is if you know off the top of your head the name of the study or a good place to find it, that would be good. And then also, in terms of continuing this conversation, which is about to be as spectacular as this bow in my hair, but if you want to continue this conversation afterwards, when everyone has the citations, r/talk heathen. But I think we're probably happy to talk to you about, at very least, the concept of there was a mystical experience with psilocybin, and then people said they weren't atheists anymore.
Well,
there's essentially
the survey study that I'm referring to. Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say
they're inducing this experience, is what you're saying. This was not like sort of organically experienced by them individually, right?
Oh well. In their research, they related to what they're doing in the laboratory studies, which, yes, they're inducing people with this experience with psilocybin. Okay. But the survey study that was published less than a week ago in the Public Library of Science, that involved 2 groups. One, a non-group, people who had this experience like naturally, like whether through meditation or asceticism, and then a drug group, people who had this experience whether through psilocybin, DMT, ayahuasca, peyote, and so forth.
Okay.
So they're getting
all the
high,
classical.
and
then they're experiencing a full mystical experience. So it sounds like a great weekend.
A moderate to moderate to high dose.
Is what you're saying? What you're trying to say is that this is causing them to no longer be atheists, right?
Yes, that's what they're showing in the studies. That
do you think that's genuine?
Well, I've had this experience myself, and I was an atheist prior to the experience. So,
okay, but what I'm saying is, if they're inducing this, right? This is not something that is brought on organically or something that they experience as personal to them.
I see what you're saying. Like, is it genuine? Well, they compare the induced experience. Like, they see them virtually identical to the naturally occurring. They can make no distinction. So, they are identical.
Sorry. I think that's the point that Kyle is making is if you can induce it with a natural cause, why would you suggest that when it's not induced, it's not a natural cause? So no, not a shortcut. I think the question is, how do you know there's a long cut?
Well, they do, and Johns Hopkins say that they found these experiences to be biologically normal, because of the fact that they can induce them in such a way that they see them. They see no distinction between those experiences and the ones naturally reported in religion.
Well, let me ask you this then. Why wasn't God himself powerful enough to induce this event? Why did it take a study to do so? Well,
they have been studying mystical experience for a long time, ever since the work of William James in the early 1900s, and it was very difficult to study people.
Sorry, Jimmy, I'm only jumping in this much because I want to make sure Kyle's questions get answers, because his question was like, why didn't God do it instead of waiting for other humans to do that?
Well, I'm not too sure. Maybe you can elaborate, because I think maybe there.
I don't think it needs to be elaborated. It's very simple. Either the doctors caused the event or God did, and you're saying that this was done by the doctors. So essentially, the doctors at Johns Hopkins are God.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the bow worked after all.
Oh, if you want to put it that way, they say is they can induce these experiences. They look identical to what's been reported.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I understand completely what you're saying. What I'm trying to get at is, what is your point? Are you if you're trying to say that by inducing this proves God's existence? You are a long way away from that. In fact, I think it works to the opposite detriment. You're able to induce, mankind is able to do essentially what God can do.
Well, I suppose it depends on how you're thinking about God. After this experience,
that's the golden question, which is we don't, because atheist. But it says here, that you're a theist and that you do believe. So what is it that you think about a God? Because we should discuss that.
Well, they in these studies they define these experiences, mystical experiences, according to perennial philosophy.
So So I feel like the bow balances out my being slightly more aggressive in my cross-examination. Hopefully, still friendly, but when you're saying this, you're talking about what the results of the study were and the subject matter there. And you said that you were an atheist, you had this mystical experience, and now you believe. Does that mean that, like, do you believe in a personal God? Does God answer prayer? What qualities does God have?
I started leaning towards what they call, even in the research, what they refer to as the perennial philosophy.
The research. We're asking about you, he's asking about you personally, not the research.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I identify as perennialist.
Sorry, can you say the word again? Because I'm not sure I've heard it. Perennialist?
Perennialist.
What does that describe in terms of belief?
Well, in the perennialist view, they see these mystical experiences, these visions from the mystics of all the major religions.
Okay. So it's a
hodgepodge.
I was gonna say, depending on how they combine it, it's a salad bowl or a smoothie.
Just throw them all in.
Yeah. Hey, depending on the combination, it tastes sweet. But so you're saying of all of the mystics, right? So, I mean, I don't mean to jump on your spot here, but
by all means.
Oh, awesome! I get to be on Talk Heathen. No, I'm being too goofy here.
Too far, too much.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
Back a little bit.
Yeah. I should just wear a rainbow hat. No. So in terms of this experience, and in terms of you've had this mystical experience. You've had this mystical experience and now you believe in a God, right? So do you believe that is a reliable path to truth, right? Like I felt this way and therefore, there's a God or some supernatural cause to the universe or any of these things. Is that what you believe, or is it just there is some God thing? Like, what does God do now?
I think you might be... I don't know. Sometimes I think the word God itself is an issue. Like,
I agree with that because so again, sorry to be. Oh, did you want to jump in?
Well, I just have a very simple question. If you came to this experience by something that was caused by man, what is God doing for you now? Like now that you're not that's not going on with you now, what is God doing for you in your life outside of that? Have you experienced anything that wasn't brought on by some chemical means or something that was introduced by a team of doctors?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
what is that?
All sorts of things, man. Like you develop more patience. You're more open-minded. I mean, you can even use.
So I mean, as far as the results of the study, I would understand that an experience that was transformative and these kinds of things, an emotionally significant experience in a person's life, whether it was deliberately or deliberately and not clinically induced by drugs or clinically induced by drugs, might change the way a person views the world. But basically, we haven't heard anything about a supernatural actor or a being that acts on the world. So why do you use the word God?
Well, that's what I meant. Like, I think that word can be confusing because I don't mean anything like a supernatural being or anything like that.
So what do you mean? Like, do you believe that there is something supernatural about your experience?
Not necessarily in the sense that, like,
even more
it's something that defies physics or it's something that's magical. I guess the most profound.
So let me ask this. So you said you used to be an atheist, and then you had a mystical experience. I'll refrain from asking you on camera whether that was induced or natural or a dream, because it's Texas, and for all I know, you might be in Williamson County and in danger for your life just for calling in. But what did you mean before this when you said atheist? Like, Because
I think I was kind of like Matt. I didn't know what I meant, and Matt says when he's asked,
what would
Matt
knows what he means by
the
the word atheist. Like,
it sounds like he's
sure, but when he's asked if what would convince him, what would he consider as evidence, he says he ultimately doesn't know.
I think he just got high, had a really good trip, and now he's. I think that's what it boils down to. It feels like it feels out of body and it feels supernatural, but it's really not. See, the thing is, if it was a god like I think you're trying to say, this would be something that you would experience on a personal level. It would be something that is close to you because God's speaking to you, speaking to your heart, and this would be something that a large group it could not happen to. What you're saying is this study says that a group went in as atheists, came out believing because of a chemical that they were put in. And so, to me, that is as far away from proof for God as you can get. I mean, the chemical would be...
It's sort of like people believed that lightning was caused by God, and then showing them that, no, it's atmospheric conditions shouldn't persuade people that a God exists. If you can demonstrate the mechanism by which an unknown phenomenon occurs, and that mechanism is natural, presumably it would persuade people that there isn't a supernatural cause and that it's not divine or a divine actor. And so I'm curious why the opposite happened.
I've been high to the point where I thought...
Do you mind if I add something real quick? One thing that happens that's probably the most profound in these studies is in the complete mystical experience, they talk about everyone has this, feeling in their experience, in their everyday consciousness of subject-object duality, that the organism separate from its environment. And at the height of a complete mystical experience, that duality no longer exists.
Yeah, so...
There is no...
sorry to jump in here, Jimmy, because I've run a little bit longer and I can see Eric out of the corner of my eye.
I just wanted to mention the study, man. If you want to end the call now, that's fine.
Oh, yeah, cool. No, just if you know the name of the study,
it.
Say it real quick. But what I was going to say is it sounds like you're describing an ego death, which is a positive thing, even though it includes the word death. But
that's something that you need, actually. Ego death.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they equated to. Definitely.
Yeah. I feel like inducing that with chemicals doesn't really have anything to do with the God. So I would encourage you to call back next week because I think this conversation can be very productive. But I don't know why you would describe yourself as a theist or a person that believes in God. But in any case, I hope to talk to you again in future. I really got to wrap this up because Eric is closely approaching punching zone. So I got to... All right. Thank you for calling in. Yeah.
Thanks, Jimmy.
All right. Well, that was pretty... I had a good time.
Of all the streams that I have done, this is definitely the most recent.
I'll take it. And with that, I'll turn it back over to my co-host, who is still my best friend, even though I ran a little bit long. Yeah.
All right. I am joined by Paulogia. Let's hear it for Paulogia. All right, dude, I'm glad you're here, man.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
Yeah.
This weekend has been a blast.
It was a great time, yeah. And all I was going to say is, I'm from Canada's Texas.
Okay.
And so to come here, it just feels like right at home. It's all great.
Religious billboards and all?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's where I live, too. I'm in Canada's Bible Belt, so I'm used to it, yeah.
We're going to commiserate after this. I love it.
Sounds good.
But I do want to jump into a call. Did you have anyone in particular? Actually, I'm going to steal this. There's a Benjamin.
Benjamin,
in Florida.
That's a good Bible name. Good, solid Bible name.
Yeah.
Right on.
Hey, Benjamin, you're live with Eric and Paulogia. How's it going?
Hey, really good. Thank you for taking my call. I really appreciate it. And Paul, welcome to the United States, man.
Thanks so much. You sound familiar. Have you been on my show several times involuntarily?
Have I been set up?
Involuntarily, possibly.
Who am I talking to? Who are we talking to?
This is Ben Shuttler. I used to co-host with Eric Hovind, and you do a lot of stuff with him. And so I think, I don't know that I've been on your show, but I know you kind of highlight Eric, which sometimes I'm standing in his shadow, so the light gets on me as well.
Yeah, indeed. It's so exciting to talk to you finally.
Well.
Yeah, I was actually hoping to come to the Faithless Forum and meet you guys. And definitely, if you do that again in the Dallas area, I'd love to put you in front of some larger Christian audiences if you guys are interested.
Ooh, well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you heard the start of the show, but yeah, the plans for 2020 are going. So we'll be in touch.
Okay,
for sure. So Benjamin, what did you want to call in about?
Dallas or? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just because we'll
figure out our date later
for sure.
No, absolutely. So I was told to bring my best evidence.
Do, please.
For theism. And I'd like to say this. I'm happy to fixate on one. I think most theists would say that it's not like one compelling. Well, I guess I can't speak for most, but at least for me, I wouldn't say there's one compelling thing. I would say there's several strong pillars, which you guys often interact with. So like that causal argument, I think most people would call it the cosmological argument, this idea that there had to be an initial causer because our universe displays a causal nature to it, which it does.
Actually, it doesn't. Hold on, Ben. You don't just get to throw stuff out and scoot on through.
Come on.
No.
Okay,
so that is special pleading. That's fine. We can talk about that special pleading. But if you want to actually, is that the one you wanted to talk about?
Well, and then the other would be, in my opinion, that the universe reflects design. Nonetheless, that there has that morality, in my opinion, needs a moral lawgiver. I'm not saying that's my opinion. So those three things kind of are strong. And so if you want to like pick one of those, I'd be happy to discuss one. But I would say underneath all those is probably more of an epistemological angst that I have, which is I feel like oftentimes, I shouldn't say most, but some theists come to the table with going like, well, I believe in God by faith, and you should too. And you say, well, that's not really logical because that's circular. And I say, fair enough. But then I do think that a lot of times atheists will say, well, if I give evidence for an invisible transcendent being, that evidence isn't going to necessarily fit into scientific parameters because it's for an invisible transcendent being. So I guess the evidence has to be allowed to get to God. And so I would agree, like how if I'm going to prove to you that there's a being that's invisible that was capable of creating the world, I can't necessarily I can use science, but at the end of the day, there's going to have to be an element that this being is supernatural.
Hold on, why?
So I feel like the evidence has...
Why though? But why though?
Because God is supernatural. God is that stands outside of creation.
Go ahead.
If there theoretically was this supernatural being or any kind of supernatural thing, if you are positing that it is going to interact with nature in some way, it is going to leave fingerprints. It's not like that we can somehow... So we can look at these fingerprints, and you've given us three pillars. I don't think they're particularly strong pillars. I wouldn't build my house on those three. But yeah, Ben, you would agree that if the God is interacting with nature at all, then it will leave evidence that we could evaluate, right?
Absolutely, of course. And that's where I would say, if you want, because you already have challenged us. So let's take that first one.
Yeah, I'd love to.
I look at the universe and I
really
see
quickly,
a causal nature to it.
Really quickly, Benjamin.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to kind of clear the air here. You're not talking about a Christian God, and the arguments that you've given so far have not pointed to Christianity. You understand that? You're just giving the deistic arguments? Okay.
Because I feel like you have to establish one to get to the other. But I do believe in a Christian God, but that's not the argument I'm giving.
Okay, why should I care about these deistic arguments if they don't get to your point? Did you work your way backwards?
They do, but they have to be established first.
Okay, so then let's go over the established. What's you were talking about causal arguments?
Yeah, well, and you were challenging this, but I mean, like when I look at a tree, I'm like, well, that tree probably came from some type of seed, and that seed came from a previous tree. And so when I look at nature, I do see a lot of causes. And I feel like if you trace those back, you go all the way back to the Big Bang. And any physicist will tell you that at the point of singularity, the laws of physics break down. So to me, it makes sense that if this whole universe came from a Big Bang, there was something standing on the other side of that Big Bang, or it's not illogical, I guess I should say.
Yeah, it actually is illogical, Ben.
Okay.
No. That's okay. Because there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that there can be something on the other side of all that exists.
Right, and that may not even be a coherent concept to say what is outside of our X, Y, and Z axis. To say that there's something, or maybe there is something. I think the only honest thing we can say is we don't know. Because of course, before time is also incoherent, and again, a lot of us feel like that it's not. We might acknowledge that our particular universe, our particular instantiation of space-time had a beginning, but you already acknowledged for us that there was a singularity, and that singularity we don't know anything about before Planck time. Therefore, for example, first law of thermodynamics is that matter is neither created nor destroyed in layman's terms. Therefore, energy could have, if something has to exist forever, why not energy? Because at least we know that energy exists, and we can imagine that perhaps there is a pool of energy that our particular instantiation of space-time came from, but that doesn't mean that that's all the energy that exists in the cosmos, and that's why we use the word cosmos to describe what's beyond our universe, and possibly there are other universes, or maybe we're the only one. But the real honest answer there is we don't know, not therefore God.
And I would disagree. I would say that is illogical to just go, hey, when I look at all of this energy, to say that there is another energy source, but I refuse to call him God.
No, not another energy source. It's the same pool.
Yeah, who said another energy source? And why does it have a penis? You said I refuse to call him God?
God in the Bible. Well, what?
I mean, what to use it for?
Are you? Well, I'm just confused. It's like that kind of seems like mockery that doesn't further the conversation down the road. Is that a serious question of yours?
Well, I'm trying to explore why you're gendering energy, and that is silly.
Yeah.
Now it's okay.
No,
People make fun of my hair, and I just kind of go, "Yeah, my hair's stupid," and I move on. It's okay. I'm just ribbing.
So to me, the hair is totally not part of the conversation because I can't see it. But if I could, maybe I would make fun of it. I don't know.
I would.
Okay, fair enough.
So
what I'm saying is the argument is that there is energy that caused this formation of energy. It seems like that's the argument you're making.
Well, I'm just saying that's one possibility. I think the honest answer that we generally would give is we don't know, but certainly one possible, if something has to be eternal, we know that energy exists, and we know that we can't create it and we can't destroy it. So why wouldn't energy be a more likely candidate for the thing that is eternal, if something has to be, and if that's even a coherent concept outside of space-time?
Yeah, I don't even know if eternal is something that exists at all.
No, we don't know. Yeah. Outside of time, it may not be coherent. You're right.
Yeah. So
right.
Ben.
And so I would say energy. I would agree with your argument there that energy could be something that's confined once again to space-time. So then what I'm saying, though, is why would it be illogical to say that there's something that transcends all of this energy, all of the things that we can measure scientifically,
sure.
That there's something that transcends space-time that is capable of creating space and time. That is logical.
No,
you
it's
may
not.
disagree with it, but
no, hold on. We can go to the foundations of logic, right? And we can say A equals A, A does not equal not A, and A cannot equal A and B at the same time, right? We can go through there, and I can say that before existence doesn't make sense. Right, you're trying to confirm it and its negation. I mean, existence, period. It's how does that become logical?
I'm saying the physical universe.
What is there outside of the physical universe?
God.
How do you know that? Is there outside of the physical universe? I just kind of gave that, and that doesn't even make sense, does it?
Well, I mean that's one possibility, but again, we just don't know.
This is the epistemological challenge that I'm saying. I'm going if the universe is a closed loop, then what I'm saying is that there's a being that stands outside of that closed loop that would have created all of this. You're saying, I don't know. I'm actually positing a hypothesis here.
Oh okay. Hold on. I actually have a hypothesis. I did it.
Okay. Yeah, but you were caused, though.
No, I wasn't.
Is that a logical hypothesis?
No, it's me stating a thing and not backing it up.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, but this is logical to say that there is something that transcends all of this that has the capacity to do it.
You're welcome.
Now, if you could point to some things that go, if you could point to some things that go, okay, here's why that God cannot exist. And I feel like what's being said is, well, that God can't exist because nothing supernatural exists. And I don't feel like that is a logical.
I don't know that we're saying that God can't exist. What we are asking for is some evidence that he does. We are saying there are lots of possibilities. So I don't know if you're going with the Kalam cosmological argument, for example, but basically what that argues for is a sufficient cause. And I don't think that we would say that there wasn't a sufficient cause. That makes sense to us, that something sufficient kicked off what we currently have now, if in fact it was time. But what we don't get is how you're jumping from sufficient cause to divine being or being at all.
Okay. Well, let me explain that, because I feel like you did a better job of explaining the Kalam than maybe I did, or a more succinct job. So thank you.
Don't worry.
But I guess what I'm saying, though, is that if that is true, like if there was a sufficient cause, then in my mind, and I think in what I would like to go a step further and say a logical person's thinking mind is, could that causer be a God? And I don't feel like that has a rational fall apart when you go, oh, well, maybe that
it does.
And then you pair it. Well, then you pair it to all these other things, because it's not just that there are things that were caused. There's design, there's morality, and all these things fit with a God explanation. So that's why it does multiple pillars.
You're right. It does create a very, very interesting house of cards. As you remove each of them, you should probably be questioning whether or not that structure is stable.
The problem with the God explanation is that there's literally nothing that it couldn't explain. You can't take evidence for something that would be anything could be evidence for God, like, because he's all powerful, so that it's not falsifiable, is what we say. Unless evidence uniquely points to one hypothesis or another hypothesis, it's not really evidence. It's just data. We need evidence has to point to one hypothesis versus the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so atheism to me makes no hypothesis, and so since you're saying nothing and I'm offering something, I'd rather have something than nothing. Does that make sense?
Would you rather have a bunch of none? Like, okay, so we're going to end with the gumball analogy, because
all right.
Jamie's given me the stink eye, and I think that'll help. Have you heard the gumball analogy, Benjamin?
Man, I don't know that I have. Thanks for letting me share some stuff. I do appreciate it.
No, that's awesome.
The content you put out.
Honestly, really appreciate your call. You've been really, really fun, actually, and very respectful, insightful, and I'd love to be able to go over more of those with you. You're welcome to call back, but I do want to keep you on the line because I want to go over this analogy. Okay.
Yeah, 1 second more, Ben.
So between Paulogia and I have a thing of gumballs, and it is sealed, and it was handed to me. I have no idea how many gumballs are in front of me. Paul, have you counted these gumballs?
I have not counted them, no.
All right. So if we were posed this question, is the number of gumballs even or odd? And I say, odd. I think there's an odd number of gumballs in this jar. Paul, you know that I've never seen this before.
Correct.
Right? So would you agree with me that the number of gumballs in this jar is odd?
I would not.
Does that mean that you think it's even?
It does not mean that I think it's even.
Okay, so then how can you disagree with me if you're saying that it's not odd?
Well, because these are separate propositions. The one proposition is that the number of gumballs is odd, and the negation of that is that it is not odd.
Right.
But that does not mean the negation is that it is even.
Right. And put in layman's terms, the honest thing to do is to wait until we count the gumballs. Right. We should not be jumping into things until we can do that, because to do so would be folly. And just because I can say it's odd, I'd rather say it's odd than not know. That doesn't get us to actually knowing the truth. It just makes us more comfortable in light of that scary fact that we have a lot to learn about the world.
When I left Christianity, one of the hardest things to do was to become comfortable with the idea that I don't know is an acceptable answer.
Yeah.
And it is an acceptable answer when that is the honest answer.
Benjamin, I hope that helped.
I mean, I have so much to say to that, but I know you guys said it.
We will talk to you again, brother.
Can I say this? Not an accurate analogy to the way I would believe it, but I do agree that we have to admit when we don't know that we don't know. And I would agree with that. So.
Sounds good.
Fair enough. All right. Take care, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Paul, dude, this was fun.
My pleasure.
Loved it.
Eric. Love it.
All right, we're going to pass off to Jaime. Jaime, all you, bud.
Yup.
And the hat is back, and I'd like to bring on a very special guest. You may know him if you've been watching the episode from the beginning, because this is Cosmic Alex Skeptic. Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Yeah. Let me plug myself in here. Sweet.
That's
ready for
slang
round
from
two.
the 70s. Yeah. Boom. I was going to make some joke about, someone has to be keeping score in the back and like seeing which guest is best, but I don't know how you would score that, I guess.
No, and I'm not sure anybody's actually even paying attention right now, so.
Hey. You're not on till next week. All right. So let's go ahead and take our call. Josh in Texas, you're on with Jaime and Alex, a.k.a. Cosmic Skeptic. What did you want to talk about today?
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Josh Brister with Red Pill Religion. We're another debate channel. I wanted to know on what basis would y'all possibly believe in God? Because I was listening to the last caller. I forgot what his name is, but it seems that you should listen to common sense. That seems to be the theme, that the cosmological, teleological, and moral argument, we live as though God does exist. Since you already do live as
I'm actually not sure about that here. Josh, hold on one second. So I stopped myself from interrupting you when you said, what would it take for you to believe in God? The clarifying question is, which God?
Let me answer that since you asked a question.
Oh, okay.
I would say God is the greatest conceivable being with no room for potentiality.
So conceivable by whom? Because people's imaginations vary.
I'm sorry, say again?
You said the greatest conceivable, right? Like that's an action of a person thinking about what a God is.
Like anything you could think of God.
Me specifically, or
that would be God.
Can I just jump in and say that I don't think existence is a predicate, so I don't think that that the greatest conceivable being necessarily has to exist.
Indeed, I'm not using it as a predicate. Alvin Plantinga's ontological argument, I'm not even using that ontological argument. Maximal existence would be, God would have to exist maximally since he would exist in all possible ways.
Sorry, as far as I'm aware, existence is a binary quality.
But that goes against the crude ontological argument, not Alvin Plantinga's concept, maximal cause.
You've got a bit of a problem, because if you're going to say that there's a possibility of a maximal being existing, and therefore in some possible universe, in some possible world, there is a maximally great being. However, if there is a maximally great being, then it exists in all possible worlds. It's self-contradictory. You can't say that.
How's that contradictory? But be aware that that's not even my argument. My argument is from a commonsensical perspective, and at the you should know this. At the University of Oxford, the former he just passed away. Daniel Robinson, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that in his lecture series.
No, I'm not.
No, but what did he say?
He brings up Thomas Reid, the great Christian philosopher that went against David Hume and his skepticism towards the existence of God and miracles. And
in what way?
Robinson basically argues that common sense is something we should take into account when we're trying to see if these arguments are plausible or not.
Can we try and codify this a little bit? Like, what's because you've said a few times now, well, that's not what I'm arguing. So what are you arguing? Let's hear it. Can you lay it out in some kind of syllogistic form so we can hear what your actual point is?
I'm saying that there's a cumulative case, and I piggyback on the last caller, a cumulative case these arguments, for example, the cosmological, teleological, and moral argument, seem more plausible than their negations. So it seems to me that the wise person, the wise atheist, would no longer be an atheist, but be a theist.
There's only a cumulative case if the individual components of that accumulate to make your case individually are sound.
Not at all. Not at all. I talked to Graham Oppie about this. In fact, I had a debate online with him, and I even referenced his book.
Oh, so just Josh, real quick,
God.
sorry, because I think you started to answer before Alex finished what his question was. So you may have.
No, I think it's fine, but I will just mention, like, I don't particularly care who you've spoken to. I want to know what you think.
Well, Dr. Graham Oppie is probably the most sophisticated atheist in the world.
Well, so good for him, but like he's not calling in.
He talks about cumulative case, and but Alex, when we look at something, we don't believe something just on the basis of one argument or one reason, but a cumulative amount of reasons.
That's right.
So why aren't you a theist based on these arguments that they're more plausible in each case than their negation?
Because the things that I believe, while cumulative, the individual components of that cumulative case
but that's
all
not
are.
How you live life,
So exactly the same thing has happened twice, which is you haven't listened to the end of the statement, which I believe is the source of the confusion here.
Look,
because
you can't. So if you're going to say, so you say you piggyback off the last caller, and you're talking about the cosmological argument and the teleological argument. I don't buy these arguments, and if I don't buy those arguments, then they cannot be contained within a cumulative case towards the existence of God.
All right, so you believe that things can literally come into existence without a cause? That's like magic. Is atheism therefore magic?
No, but
no. Go ahead, please.
I can say so. Your argument predicates that you must have a belief about something rather than being able to hold a position of not asserting a belief about something. So what you've said is, but if it's not this, it must be this other thing that is ridiculous. And
I'm saying the wise person will think that things that begin to exist has a cause.
Yeah, I'm familiar with you saying it's wise to believe this and not, but that's not really an argument about the thing. It's more like you saying, you're wrong or silly to think otherwise. But it comes down to the same thing, which is something that's called the argument from personal incredulity, which is, I don't understand how a person could be wise and believe this. It is. The form of your argument follows this. Because it's, if it's you don't believe this, it must be that which is ridiculous. That is, in essence, a textbook example of
I don't think so. In everyday life, you live as though that things that begin to exist have causes. It's just when we get to the beginning of the
we've
universe,
never seen something that began to exist. Yeah, we've never seen something that began to exist.
Yeah, well, give me an example of something beginning to exist.
Big Bang cosmology, the majority consensus by far is that the universe had a beginning about 14 billion years ago at the Big Bang.
Okay, but
is atheism going to believe in magic and discount that?
Look, before we get no, I don't think anybody here has quite discounted that the universe had a beginning around 13.8 billion years ago.
Then how do you account for it, Alex?
Well, look,
because what you said is in your day-to-day life. Sorry for jumping in here.
It's fine.
Yeah, can you name something that you believe began to exist, or that we have seen begin to exist, that is encountered, as you said, in your day-to-day life?
The universe.
Okay,
the universe
but you can't. You can't begin there, because your argument is that the universe had a cause, right? The argument is that the universe had a cause, the reason you're going to have to let me finish it. Look, if the argument is the universe has a cause, and the reason that you're using to justify that is the fact that everything that begins to exist has a cause, and I say, well, give me an example of something that begins to exist, and you say the universe, that is the definition of a circular argument.
Well, it's common sense when the majority of physicists say the beginning.
Common sense can be foolish.
Let me finish
and
now.
It's not all that common.
If the universe did begin to exist, you're going to have to postulate that something brought it into existence. And I have a positive argument for this. Here's the positive argument. The only way that a temporal effect can come from a timeless and changeless state of affairs, and yes, I'm piggybacking on William Lane Craig's scholarship, is if the cause is a personal agent endowed with freedom of the will.
How do you know
that, Alex?
How do you know?
The negation of that is to say it popped into existence without a cause. That's atheism. That's magic.
It's neither of those things. Sorry if I can jump in here. So no, what you're saying is the negation of that is something is this. So when you talk about the negation of something, you're talking about the other half of a dichotomy. The negation of, oh no, the universe was created in XYZ way is, oh no, the universe was not created in XYZ way. It is not the assertion or conclusion that the universe was created, by 1, 2, 3 way. Sorry for cutting across the actual specific argument, because I'm pointing out that at its core, even without the specific parts, it is logically flawed to the point where until we address the logical flaws, it's not. I know, because I'm not sure that you're critically examining the logical structure of your argument.
Oh, come on. No one with common sense would say things can literally pop into existence.
What makes you say that? Can you define common sense?
What we have a necessity to believe. That's how Thomas Reid defined it in his book, An Inquiry into the Human Mind.
When you're talking about things, hold on, because there's a point of clarification. You're talking about common sense is you're saying is what's necessary is what's necessary to believe.
I want your guests to look up common sense realism.
Yeah. So just very quickly.
By the University of Aberdeen.
Here's what I'll say. I'm sure he will, and this isn't the only format in which people can interact. The internet is great and vast. Yeah, that's an interesting thing to do on my channel. But what I will say is, I've lost. The clarifying thing is in your definition of common sense, you said things that it is necessary for us to believe. Can you
that the dictates of live life? This is what this is what Thomas Reid says. Not just me, Thomas Reid.
Okay, so that's cool. I've never met the man. It doesn't matter who said it, and there's very, very limited time, and I don't want you to get cut off.
All right.
If you cite everything, because citing your sources and giving credit to the people that came before you, excellent, and I applaud that, and I understand why you're doing it. My co-host is trying to get my attention and see if
would y'all like to convert to theism?
I mean, whether or not I would like to believe something is irrelevant.
I want to abide by what's true. That's all it is. Look, I will just make a point as well that's worth considering. You're making the assertion that it's foolish to believe that something can come from nothing. That itself is an assertion that requires justification. You have never had any access to nothing.
You live your life like
Hold on. There is no nothing in the universe, okay? There is no point in the universe at which there is truly nothing. Even if you suck out all of the atoms and radiation and everything of a point of space, it still weighs something. There's something there. So you can't say.
Philosophers speak of this, Alex. You're speaking like a hard-nosed scientist.
And some don't.
Yeah. And right now we're speaking about it. So why don't we use words that describe the thing we're speaking about?
All I'm saying is at the University of Oxford, the late Daniel Robinson referenced Thomas Reid, and you can find his lecture series on YouTube.
Yeah.
Common sense realism is the ultimate defeater to atheism.
Yeah, and at the University of Oxford, I think he's wrong. What's your point?
So what I will say is, sorry,
aren't you a student there?
I hate that
have some humility, sir.
So I hate that we have to switch guests. Josh, I'm going to go ahead and throw you back on hold because I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
How much?
Hey, it's nice talking to y'all.
Yeah, and you have a phone number, all of these things.
I know it can get a little rowdy, but you know what? I respect y'all.
I think I talked over you. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think I talked over you more than you talked over me, but that's just the natural course of events when you're in a conversation with me.
Yeah,
so I'm going to throw you on hold and an open invitation to any of the people that you named talking about any of the things to call the show or meet with me privately and explain those. But thank you for calling in, Josh.
Thank you.
And also, anyone that does anything with philosophy in Oxford University, and if I take any longer, Eric might have to find a new co-host, because I'll be dead.
All right. This time I get to have Shannon. Well, that was interesting. So I'm wondering if we should pick him up or move to another caller. What do you think, Shannon?
I'm up for whatever. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk to Josh. Hi, Josh. You're live with Eric and Shannon Q. How are you doing?
Who am I talking to?
You're talking to Eric Murphy.
And Shannon. Hi, Josh.
Oh, hi, Shannon.
Oh, hi, Josh.
So, where were we?
Hear from you. We were talking about common sense realism, how it's the ultimate defeater towards atheism.
What is atheism?
Atheism, historically...
No, I'm not talking about what historically it is. Well, you understand what I probably...
Unfortunately, you don't get to make up a new definition. Let's go with history.
We asked you a question.
The historic definition of atheism is the proposition that God does not exist. And Dr. Graham Oppy
Okay, cool. Hold on.
says
Josh, take that to somebody who takes that position, and then you can argue it with them. If you don't want to talk to us about our own positions, then Josh, do you understand that you can only? Yeah, when we talk over each other, it doesn't work very well.
All right.
So
I'm sorry.
That's all. It's all good, man. I just want to make sure that we're super clear here, right?
If I saw y'all in real life, you would know I would respect y'all so much. I'm so sorry.
Is this the person who's so disrespectful online?
He has been towards me in the past. Josh has apologized, and I have accepted his apology. So I'm certain that Josh is going to instantiate better behavior during this interaction. And we've had conversations in the past about how he was going to take steps to prove that when he interacts with me that he will do so in a respectable fashion. And I'm certain that today is the day that he's going to use that opportunity to demonstrate that he's true to his word. Right, Josh?
Actually, in my defense, yes, I have apologized.
And if at any point, Shannon, that you don't think he's better, then we'll drop him.
Hold on.
No, it's okay, Josh. Go ahead.
I apologized for laughing at you from one of my friends that made a comment, and I shouldn't have done that because that wasn't acting like a Christian on my part.
And I've accepted your apology, and I'm interested in continuing the conversation. So let's prove that people can have redemption. I accept your apology, and let's go right ahead. Cool. So let's try not to talk over each other, though, Josh.
Hold on. I don't know if redemption exists in the atheistic community, but we can try.
Josh?
Yes.
I'm not going to make those judgments about your religion, right? I'm not going to make those judgments about you as a person. Don't do it to us.
Right, Josh. You're not demonstrating that you're showing respect for me right now because I am part of the atheist community.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm being respectful to you.
When I did laugh, everybody went after me. So I think there's a better way to behave. And you know, sometimes when someone did something, which I laughed at one of the comments, you know, people should seek forgiveness. And even James in modern day came out and said the same thing towards some other atheists online.
All right.
I'm not sure I understand any of those statements, but we can get back to the arguments. We don't need to relitigate this, Josh. It's okay.
So let's attack this argument first, right?
All right.
So you painted this picture of atheism, right? And you're going to go on to say why it's wrong. That's not the position I take, and because that's not the position I take, I don't see any reason to have the conversation. We can agree on definitions and then move forward, but otherwise it kind of seems like a stumbling block.
Are you an agnostic then? Do you believe?
I'm an agnostic atheist.
Are you not sure if God exists?
I'm an agnostic atheist.
I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you think regarding the beginning of the universe, do you think it's more plausible that it had a cause or not? Because Lawrence Krauss even tacitly admitted this in one of his debates with Dr. William.
What does it mean to tacitly admit something?
Yeah. Do you think that there's like some kind of conspiracy?
He finally agreed to it after the back and forth.
Okay.
He said probably it did have a cause.
Bring it up with him. Let's talk to each other.
Okay. So what's your argument?
Okay. Well, whatever that begins, the basic Kalam cosmological argument. I have other cosmological arguments. For example, Wilhelm Leibniz argument, why something exists rather than just nothing. But let's start with the Kalam. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. Now, which of these premises do you deny?
That the universe may have begun to exist.
On common sense.
Do you think that common sense is how the universe works? I mean, there's a lot of complex.
Say your question again. It went.
Sure. Sorry, I might have ducked out because I was talking too quietly. So there are a lot of very complex things about this universe. I don't think you could reasonably, move forward with understanding those kinds of mechanics. I mean, it's just mind-blowing, and I definitely would be talking out of my butt if I tried. And so I don't want to do that, right?
Hey, can I ask you on one question first? Are we live? Am I live right now?
You certainly are.
Yeah, you're live right now.
Yep. It's a live show.
Okay.
It's a call-in show.
Okay.
Yeah. So the issue that I take, I don't know if Shannon takes this as well, but it's the ascribing that there is a cause outside of time and space, that is somehow a thing, or that doesn't create a reductio ad absurdum where everything needs a cause, just, turtles the whole way down. I'm sure you've heard that argument. But I don't know how you get out of it.
Right.
Right.
Well, what's the? I don't think God is outside of time right now. I think God is timeless. Same way with William Craig. I've read all his books.
I have something to say because I actually have a different objection than Eric. Do you mind, sorry, Josh. I just before we get too far off the rails, I just wanted to be able to state my objection with the Kalam as well.
Okay, let me finish this point.
Okay, finish that point and then I will go. Please go ahead.
Okay, I believe God is timeless without the universe existing. That is, means sans creation, and in time subsequent to creation. So if it's conceived in that way, God atemporal, then there is no contradiction. It's more plausible than saying that the universe came into existence uncaused out of nothing.
It seems you're refuting things that I haven't said because I haven't had the opportunity to state what my objection is. So what my objection is even if I accept all of your premises, that doesn't get me to God, that just gets me to cause.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a cumulative case.
And then you just rename cause God and then say not only is it God, but it's the God that I have in this particular book.
Not at all. It's an inference based on the whole cumulative
It's an inference.
case. And, hold on, because I debated Grandmoppy on what...
You're talking to me now, though, not Grandmoppy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so address the things I said. Please.
Let's see what Grandmoppy said.
No,
you're talking to me. It's very difficult to have a conversation with you,
Uh-huh.
Josh, because you don't reference the things that I say, and you don't address what I just said something to you, and you're saying, well, I had a conversation prior with someone who didn't say what you said at all. Let's talk about what that other atheist said, and not address the thing that you just said directly to me in a conversation the two of us are having together. That makes it incredibly difficult to converse.
Sure. It's a cumulative case then. So when we believe in something or think something is plausibly true or more probably true, we always do that with multiple...
So you start with the conclusion and then build a case around it. You rename cause God, name that, and then you say, okay, I'm going to presuppose God, and thus look for evidence that supports that.
Well, then you're going to say that the universe came from nothing by nothing?
I'm not saying the universe came from anything. I don't know where the universe came from. Neither do you. Neither of us know where the universe came from. The difference between the two of us is that I'm saying I don't know, and all you can get to is cause, even if you accept the premises. And you're saying, not only do I know, but I know that it's my God, and I can prove that it's my God because I assume it is already, and I'm going to go out into the world and find a bunch of things that I can throw on top of that assumptions and then tell you why I'm right. I'm not doing that.
We use philosophy.
Which one of the two of us is the more honest in the conversation?
I hear your long speech, but we use philosophy and history in a cumulative case. I don't say it's the Christian God from the Kalam cosmological argument. I argue that from the resurrection of Jesus.
So you have a basket of arguments that kind of point in a sort of a tangential sort of way to a God maybe or a cause maybe, and then you say, because I have all of these various cases that I can make inferences from, if I throw them all together, then I can say, look at all of the cases I have. These all allow me the opportunity to make inferences, and thus because there are multiple ways to make inferences, that's evidence that I'm right about the inference that I'm making.
Let's say when you look at a painting, Shannon, there's a million different interpretations that you can get from it.
Which one's right?
Through selection, and through your attentive mind, you pinpoint what the design pattern on there is. We live as though God does exist. It's just
you just jumped from being able to subjectively interpret art to we live as though God exists, and that's a big.
Absolutely.
There's a few steps I feel like might be missing in that statement.
Yeah. How do you even and
how we make inferences?
I know how we make inferences.
This is common sense. How we don't do it on the mere basis of one condition or one thing. We use a multiplicity of reasons for that. So my belief in Christianity is more plausibly true than atheism. It's not built on the Kalam cosmological argument. It's built on a host of arguments.
So depending on your definition of atheism, I might agree with you. How do you define atheism? Because we obviously have a different definition than what you used at first.
I define atheism as the historically understood viewpoint that God does not exist. And this is how it's defined in the philosophical literature.
Yeah, I don't care, Josh. So you're talking to us. And I'm sorry?
Well, you are amateur atheists. Look at
Cool.
professional.
Well, then go find a professional
Go find a professional atheist and talk to them. Thank you for waiting. I
do you
appreciate
wanna
you
drop the
taking
call,
your
Shannon?
valuable time to talk to us amateur atheists. Just you understand that that is insulting, right? You really understand that you called here to have a conversation with us and then called us amateur atheists. That's a bit insulting.
I put him on hold.
Well, we're live. He can hear.
Yeah. All right. Well, that said, hopefully he can want to talk to us. If he doesn't, then he can go find other people.
Yeah, he can find professional atheists.
Yeah, there's no reason to have the conversation if that's going to be it. Popped you back on hold. And
bye again.
Hello, and welcome back to the part where there's a shiny hat. Yes. Hello and welcome to the part of the show that I control. Yes, I did just repeat myself. You're not going crazy. I'm here with decidedly not Shannon Q, but her other half, better half?
Lesser half, but...
Lesser half, Paulogia. You know him if you've been watching the rest of this show. I don't know. Did you get a chance to plug your stuff?
Plug my stuff? No, So my channel name is Paulogia, and I'm a former Christian, and I talk about the claims of Christians because it's kind of a passion of mine. I'm only recently have left the faith. So
Congratulations.
Christian arguments in particular, especially the Bible and young earth creationism are kind of my jam, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And which is why, it was great to have Ben call, because he's been in my videos, but on the other side, so... Yeah.
Well, cool. So we have to take a quick second and announce our top 5 patrons. I'm not going to hit refresh, so get in next week with a giant donation, and here we go. Neil Bradley. Neil, you are a staple of the show. Keep going on, as are the next 4 magnificent infidels. Dr. Funkenstein, Nando Gonzalez, wait. Oh, wow. We have a new order, I think. Lynette Ancross and Janet Reyes. So you 5 are, I suppose, my favorite people in the world. Thank you for donating. And if you would like to support all of the things that the ACA does and to also give Talk Heathen the credit for being awesome, you can support the show on Patreon by going to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. You ready for
Absolutely.
to get back
Let's see who's on the call.
into it? Oh, well, Josh dropped.
Sorry, Josh.
Yeah, well, we do have another caller, and I believe you may be more familiar with him than I am. Mr. ID, or is it Mr. Intelligent Design? You're on with Jaime and Paulogia. What did you want to talk about today?
Hello, good morning. Thank you for the call. Thank you for answering my call, okay?
Yeah, thank you for calling.
And good morning. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Japan, actually. And I live here for many years, and I'm a freelance scientist. And our topic for today is, I would like to share to you, supposed to be, I will be talking to Kyle Curtis of the Non-Sequitur Show and Aron Ra, but they are not there. So I just would like to share to you that I had already answered the Apologetic challenge of Mr. Aron Ross in his YouTube videos. Please tell him.
I will. I'll let him know. I don't know. If we could, I mean, do you want to take this solo, or if we could summon Aron Ra with our collective atheist magic, should we?
Yeah, it's okay, no problem.
Let's use our atheist powers.
In the name of an empty sky, let Aron Ra walk in from stage left.
Shit. God.
Yeah. Unplanned guest appearance. Hello. All right. Do you have headphones or earbuds?
I do not.
All right.
I sit on my knees between you. I am intimidated.
Well, so what did you have to say in terms of an argument that you wanted to make, Mr. ID? Or were you just going to explain how you'd answered Aron Ra's apologetic challenge?
I have an
Well, first, since Aron Ra is here, and I think also Kyle Carter is here, I would like to give thanks to Aron Ra for
give thanks to Aron Ra
challenge. I would like to give thanks him for uploading the apology challenge, and it gives me a lot of time to think and share my science. So he has actually in his videos challenge, I think 14 or 13 questions. And the challenges are composed of many questions from Aron Ra. And actually, one of the first questions that he had said is that God created kinds or biblical kinds. So in the book that I have, I can share it to him here, or I can talk to him anywhere.
I mean,
but I would like.
So hopefully his voice is coming through. But Aron Ra, through the power of atheist magic, or I guess movie magic, which is actually unbelievably powerful, has joined us. I just wanted to make sure that was a thing that you were aware of. So you can talk to Aron Ra.
Yeah, so he said that I had 13 questions in an apologetic challenge.
I mean, I wasn't aware of that, but I believe that...
I wasn't aware of that.
Sorry, Mr. RD, did you say that you'd answered 13 questions that formed an apologetic challenge put forth by Aron Ra?
No, in the videos of Aron's in his YouTube channel for the Paulogia challenge, I think he has 14 questions. For those people who are 14 questions that composed as a challenge.
Which questions do you think there are? Maybe we could get to some of the questions.
Well, one thing that good for Aron Ra is that he detailed the question for the Paulogia challenge.
You know that Aron is here, right? You know that he can hear.
It's that I'd muted the mic that Aron was using.
So Aron is here with you.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm seeing him. I'm seeing him in my screen.
All right, cool.
Okay, so let's get to some questions, some actual things.
Yeah, what you got?
Yeah, the first question that in the Paulogia challenge that Aron Ra had raised is God created kinds. This is the first question in the Paulogia challenge that I had said.
So to be clear, is this a challenge that Aron outlined in his videos? Because he seems to be unaware of it specifically. Do you mean, there appear to be something like 14 or 13, I forget which number you settled on, things that Aron Ra appears to be pointing out as errors or pointing out as questions that were unanswered that you have then put numbers to and answered systematically? Is that along the lines of what you're saying?
Yeah, actually, the question is a systematic question by Aron Ra, and all the questions that he had raised in his Paulogia challenge are answered.
Cool. But to make What's the first answer?
What was the first?
To summarize them, okay. The reason why I think Aron Ra is wrong.
Wait, what was the first question?
The first question in the challenge, if you are going to play at 8:51 minutes in this video, it said, God definitely created different kinds. This is the first challenge question that Aron Ra had asked in his Paulogia challenge.
That's not a question, nor is it a statement I would have ever made.
But maybe you forgot your videos. But
maybe I forgot that I said something in a video that I never said.
Oh, we can play it here.
Play it. Play where I never said that.
Yeah, I can play it, Aron.
Play it.
Wait.
Hiccup. Okay.
First of all, even if I had said that, that would have been a statement, a false statement, a statement I would have never made, but it still wouldn't have been a question.
No, for us, one part of your challenge is to.
Let me see if I can cut through this really, really quickly, because if I don't jump in terms of playing something from a video into a phone that goes over, my tech team will kill me, and if they team up with Eric, there's no survival for me.
Okay, so I never said that God definitely created kinds.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, you don't believe that that's a valid scientific
If I had said that, it wouldn't have been a question, but I never said that anyway, so it doesn't matter.
If Aron says that means he's being kidnapped, and we need to come and rescue him. That's what that would mean.
No, I thought he never said that. He never said that he accepted that. He just said that he needed to prove that God definitely created different kinds.
So do you have the proof that God definitely created different kinds?
What was the first question? Because I didn't ask 14 questions. What is the first question that you imagine there to be?
Oh, yeah, the first question that you had, you're asking for a proof or for explanation, first is God definitely created different kinds. At 8:51, when you played it in the videos. The second question that you had...
No, so let's...
How did I phrase that question that isn't a question that you just quoted that is a statement and one that I didn't say?
You see it. you say it. Part of the challenge, because you are trying.
I do ask a series of questions. I do ask a series of questions in the phylogeny challenge. That's not one of them.
Yeah, there are many. I understand that.
But that's not one of them.
Of course, it's one of that.
That is not one of them.
Oh, it is part of that.
That's not a question, and it's not one of them.
Oh, but it's part of that.
But
so if you neglect that, no problem to me. But it's part of the challenge. It is recorded in the videos.
Yeah, but it's not a question, and therefore you haven't answered it.
I understand that. It's not a question, but it is a part of the challenge. So
okay, I ask a series of questions which you haven't mentioned yet, which are supposed to ascertain whether God created any created kinds. So to get to that end, I did ask a series of questions. What was the first one?
And the first one is God definitely created different kinds. The second
That's
question,
not a question. It's not one of the questions, one of the many questions I asked in that challenge. That is a statement, an incorrect statement, and it is not one of the many questions I actually did ask. What are one of the many questions I actually did ask?
And you also asking us for how could
here. Let me see if I can work some of my atheist/movie magic here again. So it sounds as though part of what you're saying will eventually lead to you being able to provide evidence or proof or however you're going to phrase it that God definitely created kinds. Is that something that you believe that you have evidence for?
Of course, we have
Are you
evidence
prepared to
because-
present it to Aron Ra right now on this call?
No problem.
All right, do that.
I can.
Sorry, we're running a little bit low on time, so I'm being a little bit more pushy than I otherwise would.
Yeah, I'm going with Jaime. Do that.
Yes. Or more cordially stated, hey, can you please provide the evidence that you believe that you have that God created different
He can't give me the answer to the question because he can't give me the question.
Yeah.
Well, we're just going to go with created kinds
first,
for now.
Aron, you have many questions. That's why I wrote in a science book a question. Your question so that you will never forget.
The three of us are going to hell as we speak, so we really need to get this kinds thing so that you can save us before the time runs out, and it's going.
I'm on a show with Paulogia. How cool is that? We're both in real flesh.
I know. Okay, save our souls quickly. Created kinds.
Yeah. What's the evidence that God created kinds? Go.
The evidence that God created kind is based on intelligence and none.
Because eggs fall through tissue paper.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by intelligence and non?
It's the same argument that he loses on every time he brings it up. He just never understands it because he lacks the thing that he's claiming, intelligence.
No, you don't know about intelligence, Aron Ra.
I did know about intelligence from every previous conversation I've had with you where you read from the same script without changing it.
No, you don't know about intelligence first.
So please,
you don't know about the topic of intelligence.
Clearly, you have an.
He's going to tell you that intelligence governs how eggs fall through tissue paper.
Is that a true statement, Mr. Intelligent Design?
What once again, please. What did you say?
Does intelligence govern how eggs fall through tissue paper?
Does intelligence governs? No.
Okay.
But an event.
So I'm going to go ahead and say this right here. I'm probably going to be very forceful. I'm definitely going to talk over you, and I'm going to see if I can grab your hand and run with you as gracefully and as quickly through the flower fields of your argument as I can, while Kyle here, who says he's had a conversation with you, figures out how he's going to budge in here.
Well, actually,
So what you're saying is you have evidence that God created kinds, right? Can you define what a kind is in biology?
Yeah, based on the Bible, based on the biblical accounts of the kind.
So can you tell me?
Don't tell me the basis. Tell me how we can tell one kind from another kind biologically.
Yeah, the Bible had separated the whole life forms in 3 different kinds.
All life forms are divided into 3 different kinds.
Major division.
What are the 3 kinds?
Those are archaea, bacteria, and eukaryote?
No.
What are they? Yeah, what are
Overturn biology for us. What are they?
The first, the Bible had subdivided the whole life forms in 3 different kinds. First kind is land-based kind.
Land-based kind.
second kind is.
So is that land-based kind as in the creeping things? Is that the all sorts of birds of every kind of bird, which should be the bird kind, but it's somehow every kind of bird because the Bible it says that there's all kinds of birds of various different sorts, but doesn't tell you what a sort is either. And then tells you that there's the beast kind and the creeping thing kind. Are we up to 4 kinds? This is just on the land-based kind. And then we have the sea monsters.
So
wait. The Bible had just subdivided the whole life forms in 3 different major kinds.
So can you give me any 2 species? Because what my phylogeny challenge is, and it does have several specific questions, none of which I'm guessing you have answered or are even aware of. It's supposed to take you where you would take any 2 species that scientists consider to be closely related, and you show us how they are actually different kinds and how we discern one kind from another. So give me any 2 examples. I mean, the series of questions are all sorts of.
Let's stick on the first question
All right,
because we don't want to get lost. So, can you give an example of 2 species that are taxonomically described as being closely related, but that are different kinds, and that you can explain how to tell?
An elephant and a pine tree.
Well, if you are going to use the biblical kind in a major classification.
So that's what we're trying to define. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the best examples is that, for example, the birds. Okay, the Bible.
So
put
can we get just 2 species, please? Is what Aron was going for, rather than all birds.
Are all species of birds the same kind?
Yes, in the Bible.
Okay, so why does the Bible say, since we're basing this on the Bible, why does the Bible say that there are all kinds of birds? Every kind of bird. It says there's every kind of bird. You just said, based on the Bible, that all species of birds are the same kind. But the Bible says you're lying. The Bible says you're wrong. The Bible contradicts you. The Bible says that there are every kind of bird of all sorts. It doesn't tell you what a sort is. Maybe you'd like to enlighten us on what the hell a sort is. But it says there's every kind of bird. So how can we tell the different kinds of birds, Mr. Not-So-Intelligent Design?
Well, Aron, what I'm telling you is that the Bible has declared as the first major classification of kinds in the whole life forms.
Except that it doesn't. Even by your own description, it doesn't.
You can't accept it. No,
it's not that I don't accept it. It's that it really doesn't. You said land-based things. No, it doesn't. It talks about beasts, and it talks about creeping things, and it talks about a number. These are all different land-based things. Yeah. And you just said that birds were. You just said that every species of bird was the same kind, but the Bible says there's many different kinds of birds, so they can't be the same kind because the Bible says you're wrong.
No.
Edgar, this is not going well.
Are you going to believe in your own fairy tales or not? If your fairy tales tell you that there are many different kinds of... Hold on now.
You live in a fairy tale, not me.
No.
Okay. So let me...
You're the one that believes in magic spells and talking animals and necromancy and sorcery and enchantments and curses and all that.
Hold on. Let me play as fabulous a moderator as I can here. Sorry, I let that go a little bit because I couldn't stop a train of Aron if I wanted to.
No, you can't. But I know from experience.
So here, let's focus in as much as we can on one specific question, which is, you have said that the Bible says that, or you've said, so I'm being told that we are running out of time.
I can answer just for a very quick.
Oh, okay, cool. Here, hold on, Mr.
All,
ID.
Hi, Edgar.
Hi, Kyle. Hi, how are you?
I'm much better than I think you are.
Oh, thank you. That's good.
I just wanted to ask you, Edgar. You've told me that you are going to be coming out with the response to the Phylogeny Challenge very soon. When can we expect an update on that?
Well, actually, the reason why supposedly I'll be calling you, but you don't have this kind of like this one. So I just shared. I have already published my science book for answer for the Apologetic Challenge.
You have a science book?
And he's already published it.
Well, hey.
In Texas? Or
who is your publisher?
Oh.
That's all I need to know.
The state of Texas?
Sorry, Aron. It's over.
Hey. Yeah, sorry. So, Mr. Intelligent Design, because it may not... Call back next week, because I think that this conversation might be able to go somewhere because I'm
But you've got quite an audience. Look at the people listening to you right now.
Edgar, if I may, please call back next week. I would love to continue this conversation. But again, if I go any further, then it will be Eric, the crew, and the producer that will have my head. And then I don't even know what's going to happen.
And all I want to say is, I'm so glad we had this time together.
Sorry, things are running away. Thank you for your call, and I hope you call back next week. All right. Yeah.
Or in an
All
hour.
right. I'm sorry for that. No, I want to share. Yeah. Okay. We'll share, but you're trying to take it from me, and that's not fair.
No, boys.
All right.
Don't fight.
Not in front of our friends.
You would
not in front of Shannon.
God, you
I will
ruin
put you both
every
in your
group
room, I
picture.
swear.
Oh,
I can't believe you were going to put
You
him
got
in
us in
sorts.
trouble, man.
Anyway.
All right. So that was the first of 2 weekends in a row. Oh shit! I just doomed the Brits to Mr. ID on the call.
We are going to have a really, really awesome episode next week as well. But
yeah, not that we don't have an awesome one every week,
right? So
I hope you guys don't mind being called the Brits. It seemed much better than Limeys.
So here's what we're going to do. As we do every week, we're going to start by throwing up some love rings.
Yep.
And then
green circle
we're
is an
going
international
to
symbol of
say
atheist solidarity.
Then we're going to say thank you to the people in the back who make this happen. Thank you, crew in the back. We want to say thank you to the live studio audience.
Hey, thank you.
You sat through that and weren't able to respond or ask any questions. Thank you.
We
for
want
your
to say
patience.
thank you to everyone here who has joined us. Thank you so much, Cosmic Skeptic.
Yeah.
Aron Ra. Shannon Q. The Non Sequitur Show. Apologia. And Matt. Well, Matt.
You do regular magic, not movie magic.
I'm filling in for Steven.
Yeah. For those of you that don't believe you have community here, just look. And for those of you that do
And there's
believe,
even more on the other side.
please have better
Well, no, we're all
arguments
doing
than
this
tissue
together.
paper
Shut the fuck
and egg. I'll see
those of
you
you who
the
do
next
believe.
time I see you.
We don't hate you.
We
You're
just
wrong.
think you're wrong.
There it is.
Okay, that was fun.